I know.
Well, Dan, let me ask you these questions. We have an article up on Infowars.com. Obamacare fix affirms Obama is absolute dictator with power to change laws as he pleases. Even the former head of the DNC has come out and said that this is dictator behavior. How can he now claim his own law he'll decide what to enforce and not to enforce?
Yeah, I mean, this isn't the first time, though, either. You had the exemption for Congress. You had the out-of-pocket requirements he waived. You had the income requirements he waived. You had the employer mandate he waived. I mean, this is the odd part about this sick sense of politics on the side where they say, oh, it's the law of the land, and then they turn around 5 minutes later and they ignore the law of the land, which the law of the land, I would argue, initially wasn't constitutional, but as an extra slap in the face, even once they declared constitutional what wasn't constitutional, he unconstitutionally violated it. If that's like making your head spin right now, I assure you it's making my head spin too. The great irony being the cancellations that they're trying to avoid are going to be re-canceled next year with the re-implementation of an unconstitutional law. It's crazy. I mean, we're
and again, the word is, from a lot of high-level sources, this is even hitting mainstream, but I heard it from you as well, the word is they did blackmail members of the Supreme Court.
Oh, well, I don't know anything about that.
Well, you mentioned that the NSA can be used to blackmail people.
Oh, yeah, I said, yeah, of course. I mean, the NSA can always be. That's my worry. I mean, they have congressional BlackBerry records and everything. I mean, this should be a real problem for folks. And again, the NSA thing, when I mentioned the FOGA scandal, seems to be lost in this bigger picture because nobody knows what to focus on. Is it the Obamacare crisis? Is it the HHS shaking down health insurance industries? Is it the EPA bankrupting the coal industry, completely unconstitutional, against the takings clause? I mean, where do we focus? And I think it's almost like one of these buckshot strategies rather than rifled slug. Just fire the buckshot, and one of them's eventually going to hit, and nobody knows where to block because there's just so much going on right now. Even the Republican Party, even the libertarian wing of the Republican Party in Congress, nobody knows where to focus because there's just so much going on.
I was about to say, we've only got about 5 minutes left with you, but I want to get into this with you and then talk about your book and the campaign here briefly. I know you can't talk about it yet, but I was sent an advance copy, read it, total page turner. It's Life Inside the Bubble. Folks can see I have the advance copy right here. Got it about a month ago, so we're going to talk about when that's coming out. But top Secret Service agent left because he wouldn't be dishonorable. That's all he said. He's with us, Bongino.com. Dan Bongino is running for Congress. But, sir, I want to expand on this briefly with you because you're one of the only people that's astutely said this, and I know this is their plan because I've read some of the political warfare strategies the CFR puts out, and they admit this. That's almost a plan is to flood so much corruption, bum rushing everyone, that it's almost like when criminals take over an area and break the will of the public and just set the precedent that it's a crime zone, that's what Obama and crew are doing, is just rushing to the finish line, hoping that they gain 1 million miles, and even if we push them back 500,000, they still win.
Well, that's a great analogy, the crime analogy, because in New York, that's exactly what happened when I lived in New York, and how they stopped it was the broken windows theory, meaning at some point you have to draw the line and say, you know what, you get caught drinking in public, even though there's murders going on down the street, we're going to arrest you too, because you may be the guy that's doing the shooting later on. And I think we have to take that broken windows theory to government now and say, we're not even going to accept mild constitutional violations anymore. We're going to issue congressional subpoenas. We're going to put you up on the Hill. And, I mean, what's going to happen in the IRS? Someone in the IRS who used that to go after congressional groups, why did someone come out in handcuffs over there? I mean, this was completely unethical. You start seeing people in the bracelets walking out and perp walking people who violated your constitutional liberties, and people testifying up on the Hill every Thursday and Friday. I assure you something's going to change, but nobody's willing to do it right now. Your analogy was spot on.
Before that, you were also a decorated New York police officer, weren't you?
Yeah, that's right.
I'm going from memory. I can't think of a better congressman than somebody that's been a police officer with a good record, then a great Secret Service agent with a great record, who went public about, the fact that he couldn't morally be there, and is now running for Congress, and is now having the entire political system come after you. When you have the rhino Republican leadership attacking you, that is a seal of approval for me that you're a patriot. Do you like the ideas of Rand Paul? Do you like Ted Cruz? I mean, tell us about, just briefly, in a minute or two, your political philosophy.
Oh, yeah, mine's absolutely bedrocked in libertarian, limited government values. I always say to folks, they say, are you a Republican? I say, no, I have to run as one because there's a two-party system. But you know you're doing something right, Alex, when the barbs come at you from both directions. A guy went after me the other day, a D.C. lobbyist, former so-called Republican. You read what he has to say, a man who's profited handsomely off his insider connection. So you know you're doing it right when both parties are slinging arrows at you. So.
Well, look at the former head of the RNC, Steele. Sounds like, he's left of Lenin or something, to use that political paradigm. Briefly, you told me off air, it wasn't a secret, but you said the New York Police Department is really waking up to political corruption now as well. What's happening there? Yeah,
I think it was last time we spoke, I'd mentioned a lot of my friends are calling me, and they're just astounded by everything that's going on up there with all of the surveillance state in New York and some of the things they're being asked to do. A lot of people are starting to say, hey, is this right? I think it was just assumed because it landed on your desk and had been vetted through some channels that this was all okay. And people may have been automatons in the past, but that's not happening anymore. A lot of folks, even some of my friends in the government, are starting to call me. I'm sure you get some calls yourself and starting to question things that I don't think they questioned before. And I think that's going to be the unfortunate legacy of the Obama administration. Just if distrust with government was bad before he got in, it is going to be absolutely epic, and unfortunately.
Sure, so things have gotten bad, but the worm is starting to turn. Lastly, how are you concerned that Obama will try to save his legacy, get his radical transformation of the republic through? Because you're right, he's dropping like a rock right now. I'm really concerned he might start a war, he might pull something. What does your gut and what does your intel tell you about the future of Obama?
Well, it's a propaganda war. It's what it is. He started it yesterday. Why do you think he administratively and unconstitutionally wanted to turn the tide on this cancellation thing for your insurance? Because now he puts it back in the insurance company's laps, knowing they can't go reverse this. They spent 3 years doing it. He wants them to reverse it in 6 weeks. And then what's he going to say? Mark my words, folks. You heard it here first. He is going to say in 6 weeks, look what the insurance company did. They screwed you. That's a propaganda war that I would argue is even worse than some other kinds of actions he'd take. It really, really does significant damage to the American economy, the American psyche, trust in our government. This is really devastating stuff, and it's very sad to watch.
Well, Dan, you know a lot about criminology. I've read a lot of it just because it's so interesting. Actual criminology, not just the paperback crime novels and crime history stuff that's nonfiction, but good people tend to be blind to evil because we just don't think like that and can't imagine it. And that's why a woman will get in the yellow Volkswagen of Ted Bundy, because he's wearing a nice suit. We have to learn that they're worse than we even think. And you look at Cloward and Piven and the plan to socialize things and then make us become collectivized, and you figure out it really is a plan. And that's why they're so aggressive. At a gut level, you've been inside there, you know what's going on. They know this is a plan to bankrupt America and basically get everybody on the welfare rolls.
Well, they can't not know. You'd have to not understand basic arithmetic. What their goal ultimately, and it's the Keynesian principle in economics, their goal is ultimately to make government debt the only viable debt, to take away the private sector for a way to develop capital for your business. Not to get overly wonkish, but that's exactly what they're trying to do.
No, that's it. They want a monopoly.
Right, but you can't have that, Alex. If you don't run debt, you can't issue bonds. If you can't issue bonds, then they have to get bonds from the private sector, IBM bonds, corporate bonds, stock, equities. They don't want that. They see the private sector as inherently exploitative, as destroying the environment. So what they do is they run up these massive debts, despite the economic apocalypse we're looking at, because they only hope that they crowd out the private market, and your only avenue for investment is the government.
And then they blame the capitalism when this isn't capitalism. It's crony, insider capitalism with socialism. Well, I can tell you Secret Service guys get an education in economics, but you really need to get in Congress. Dan Bongino, we'll talk to you soon. When's the book coming out?
It's available for pre-order now on Amazon, Life Inside the Bubble. You grab it, you'll get it in a couple days.
But you're not allowed to talk about it until it actually comes out, though.
Yeah, I promise.
When does it officially come out?
November 19th is the official release.
Okay, good. I think you're on that week. All right, Dan, thanks for the time, and it's always great talking to you.
You too, Alex. Take care, buddy.
Wow, I like that guy. That's a real guy. I can tell you right now, my gut just says that's a good guy right there.